At Railroad University, we find it very important to start any presentation with a land acknowledgement. So Railroad University is on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen and Cosapsan families, known as well as the Esquimalt and Sunhi nations. So this statement for us means that at Railroad, we recognize the importance of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people coming together, the relationship, as we continue to learn and understand their history, past, present, and future of Indigenous people. If you know the Indigenous land that you're joining us from today, please enter them in the chat. That's very important for us to know. I know there's people registered from across the world today, so please let us know. And I hope everyone is in the good Zoom room. So we're here to talk about the Bachelor of Arts and the Bachelor of Science in Environmental Practice. And today with me, I have Chris Ling. Hi, Chris. Program head.
Sorry, I was struggling to find the mute button. Hi, everybody.
Program head of the program. And I think, Chris, you know so much about the program, so I can't wait to hear more about more of the details as we go through. And I'm so excited that we have Erin Christensen, I hope I'm saying your name right, and Jamie Dunton to meet with us today and talk about the research paper. So as you'll learn in a few minutes, students have to do a capstone at the end of their program and to research something. So I can't wait to hear about those two projects. And again, that may really give you an idea of what Railroad is about. And my name is Nancy, and I'm an education specialist here at Railroad University, doing student recruitment. And I'm also doing one of the master here. So if you have questions about it, please let me know. So the agenda for today, we're getting to know each other. I'll talk briefly about railroads because I really want to give some space for Erin and Jamie today. You'll hear from our students, program-specific information. We'll talk about admission requirement, and we'll answer your question as we go. So why explore Railroad University? Again, I'm pretty sure that Jamie and Erin will answer that question maybe better than I do, but I know that going to school is a huge decision. Maybe you're in college right now and you want to continue to our bachelor, which is year 3 and 4. Maybe you have been out of school for a little while and you're like navigating which school will be a better fit for you. So at Railroad, we see life as a qualification, and I'll talk about it with the admission process. But we have flexible and standard admission, which means that we really see who you are as you enter the program, as you apply. So everything you have done, work experience, education, even volunteering will count. Prof who know your names. I know we were chatting before the session with Chris. Chris has seen so many students over the years, but really at Railroad, we call you by your name. So you're not just a number, and the way we teach is not you're just sitting in a lecture hall with 200 people. So there's a lot of interaction and people get to know you really well, which for me, I think it's important. Learning based on life, so really the education that you had before and what you experience at work as well will really serve you as you go through the program. So you can bring what you experience at work, for example, or in a real life problem or project, and then you bring it to your classroom and you can discuss with your instructors and your colleagues. So it's really hands-on, really connecting practice and theory together. Connection for life. I can't wait to hear from the students about it, but I think you really create a huge network at Railroad. We have alumni in many, many countries. So those connections can help you as you want to advance your career. And we were built differently. What does that mean is that since day one, we're online. So we're really strong at doing online learning here. It's not something we had to pivot over the last few years with the pandemic. It's something we do since 1995. Talking about being built differently, we're a changemaker campus. So only a few institutions in Canada and North America have that accreditation. And it's all about relevant, innovative, and transformative learning experiences with applied skill in a dynamic context. And finally, my last slide before I pass it to Chris and Erin and Jamie, just a few pictures, images of the campus. The program we're talking about today is all online, so you don't really have to come to Railroads. But if by any chance you're traveling in Victoria and you want to come see us, We have the Hatley Castle, that is an iconic place. Maybe you have seen it in X-Men and Deadpool. Many movies were filmed here. We have the Japanese garden. We have 565 acres of land, actually. So a lot to play outside. Esquimalt Lagoon, we're facing a bird sanctuary here, beautiful. And again, just a reminder that we do online learning for 25 years. And I can't wait to hear about the online experience of Erin and Jamie. So I'll pass it over to you, Chris, for the rest. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nancy, and hello to everybody who's here, and also to thank Jamie and Erin for joining us to share their experiences with us. I'm not really going to say much at this time, other than to note that what Erin and Jamie are going to be talking about is their experience doing their capstone part of their degrees. The program is structured into what we call a block A, a block B, and then the capstone. So block A is some core compulsory courses. Then block B is a series of elective courses. And then to wrap everything up at the end and to incorporate all that learning, all the students in the program either do a research paper, capstone course, or a practicum. So that's what we're going to be hearing about today from Erin and Jamie. So we'll start with Erin, who has a few slides to share as well. So Erin, if you'd like to get your slides up, and then please tell us about your capstone experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting my slides up here. Can everyone see my first slide?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm used to Teams at work, so Zoom is a bit new for me. Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for joining and for having me here today. My name is Erin Christensen, and I just have a short presentation. I'll talk a bit about my experience in the program and the research paper that I completed for the capstone project. So I started the Bachelor of Arts in the Environmental Practice program in January of 2020 and completed the program in last August, so in 2022. So going through the program for me was critical, and it was a means to kind of transition careers and for unexpectedly kind of igniting a passion for our ocean and specifically coral reefs. So I came into the program with a previous degree in fine arts and as a practicing jeweler. So I definitely felt a little bit behind for the first year and had a lot to learn, but ultimately wanted a career where I felt like I could make a difference. The natural world was always something that inspired the art I made, and it didn't feel like quite enough as a career when reading or hearing about all the environmental and kind of systemic issues of our time. So back to school I went and was really drawn to the Bachelor of Environmental Practice program because it's online, it's part-time, it's flexible, and Royal Roads is really geared towards people in kind of their mid-career or wanting to transition careers. So I was really drawn to Royal Roads for that reason. And then also so I could continue to work full-time, which in retrospect, I would absolutely not recommend doing this. It was very hard. But all the courses that I took as part of the program were really relevant and applicable, and had a lot of practical and applicable knowledge. And all of the professors I had were clearly very knowledgeable, informative, and passionate. So I loved that about the program. I also really liked being able to take electives that suited my interests and appreciated the flexibility from the program to continue to tailor the course selections beyond what was originally suggested in like the Block A and the Block B electives. And then about a year and a half into the program, I was able to get a job at an ocean conservation nonprofit, meaning I was able to transition into the career that I wanted a bit earlier than I had anticipated. So through my learning throughout my education at Royal Roads and this recent job change, I kind of had like a full circle moment where my fascination with coral reefs as a teen came flooding back to me, and I was able to use the remaining courses I was taking and my capstone project to further explore this interest. So of course I decided to do the research paper route for my capstone. I had originally really wanted to do the co-op, as I knew that that would provide kind of more of a hands-on practical skill sets, but decided on the research paper due to time constraints. Also, the research paper provided double the credits as the co-op option, had a lot of flexibility, and also I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get work off for 6 weeks. So in retrospect, I'm really glad that I did the research paper, and I was able to get a much fuller and broader knowledge about this relatively new and emerging field of coral reef restoration, which is what my project is on. So my capstone research paper is titled Coral Reef Restoration, Engaging Local Knowledge and Diverse Voices for Reef Resiliency and Sustainable Livelihoods. So I'll kind of give a high-level overview. But through my research paper, which is a literary and comparative analysis, I explored how local and traditional knowledge influences and contributes to the nature and effectiveness of coral reef restoration. So as part of this case study, I explored 3 different locations that had well-established coral restoration initiatives in Hawaii, Indonesia, and French Polynesia. So kind of explored the interrelationships between reef restoration, resiliency, and the social cultural landscapes in those areas. So for context, I began the paper by outlining the socio-ecological and cultural significance of coral reefs to their local communities, as well as the local ecological knowledge that those communities have. As well as the significance of coral restoration and its potential to bolster reef resilience. Then by comparatively analyzing Western science and local ecological knowledge approaches to coral reef conservation and restoration in these areas, so Hawaii, Indonesia, and French Polynesia, I was able to explore various opportunities for collaboration between these approaches. I then discussed the social and cultural imperatives for integrating local knowledge into coral reef restoration and the impacts on ecosystem resilience and local community livelihoods. I found that to build holistic, meaningful, and robust restoration initiatives in the face of climate change, we need to weave together scientific knowledge with local ecological knowledge for place-based insights and to support community awareness and stewardship. I also found that there was very little research on specific place-based contributions that local knowledge can bring to restoration initiatives. And I think that's largely because historically climate change and this really rapid degradation was not previously a consideration. So more of the historical and ancient conservation methods are more just around conservation areas and limiting fishing and stuff like that. So got some interesting findings for sure. And then the final outcome that for the paper was to generate a framework that can be used by coral restoration initiatives to consider the socio-cultural dimensions of that area and to ensure that the local community's unique voices and their distinct knowledge systems are included in the development, implementation, and monitoring of coral restoration initiatives. And how that can be engaged by the scientists, managers, and educators and practitioners that are involved in the project. And then after the capstone, just a little side note, I had a really awesome life-changing opportunity last December. So after I had graduated, to do a month-long internship in a little island in Indonesia called Nusa Lembongan. So I learned about coral ecology, reef surveying and monitoring, and did reef restoration in real time. I was definitely living my best life and ended up getting the practical hands-on experience that I wanted. So to wrap up, just in some, the Bachelor of Environmental Practice degree launched my career as I'm still working in ocean conservation with the same organization. And it has provided me the opportunity to explore a lifelong interest, which has, of course, influenced both my personal and professional life in a pretty big way. So that's my presentation. Thank you Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And yeah, I don't know if Chris, you want to ask questions now or if we want to jump into Jamie's, but I'll stop.
Nobody's posted any questions in the chat for you yet, but feel free if for those of you who are watching to do that. Maybe if you stop sharing your slides now, and I'll maybe ask you one question before we move over to Jamie. And that is, you gave you're a great example of someone who's really used the BEP program to shift their career from one stream to another. And I'm just wondering if you also mentioned that you looked to do a practicum as opposed to a research paper originally, but then stuck with the research paper. And perhaps if you'd like to reflect on what do you think was the sort of the key aspect of the research paper that you found helpful, as opposed to what may have been just a practicum experience that you'd originally planned to take?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I think just what I didn't anticipate about the research paper, I think I wanted the co-op experience because so much of the degree had already been like me sitting at a computer doing research. So I kind of wanted a bit more of a different dynamic experience. But what really surprised me and what I loved about doing the research paper, it just really provided this kind of like really flexible environment, because the course is six months and you kind of have the whole time to develop this project and do lots of research and really learn about it. So yeah, I think the most surprising part and like the part I loved the most was just being able to take a really deep dive into this into the subject that really interested me, and was able to kind of really tailor that to what I wanted to do. And there wasn't very many like limitations on like what that project could be like. So yeah, I learned so much and was just able to like really tailor that experience to like where I wanted to go in my career and my areas of interest personally.
Great, thank you very much. So I'd love to hear from you now, Jamie, about what you got up to with your research paper.
Sure thing. Yeah, one of the things I always loved about Royal Roads is the different paths and the different reasons why we got into this. And as you'll see, I do not have a slide deck to present here. I definitely did not know what I wanted to do when I got into the program. It was more of a, I was at a point in my career of a love it, leave it, or fix it. And I decided to kind of fix it by bettering myself. So I was laughing, Erin, as you were going through the plan you had, and you knew what you wanted to do. And I got to be honest, I still don't know what I want to do. So it's, but it was a great journey for me. I was 6 years in the program, just graduated officially this past November, submitted my capstone last August. And obtained that fabled piece of paper in November that brought me to tears. So it was a 6-year journey for me that I started in 2016. Of course, went through the pandemic. Had 4 kids in my house. Was an active travel baseball coach. Made the tours of Southern Ontario arenas every weekend in the winter, and maintained a full-time job. So it was a fantastic program for me, in that I could work around it. One of my favorite stories, and this wasn't a badge of honor, but it was a story to tell, that we took the kids to Disney World in the fall of 2016, and there I am in the condo kitchen at 3 a.m. finishing a environmental economics paper. 3 hours later we're on the road to Magic Kingdom. So it was it was an interesting ride, but one that I'm super proud to have got through. So as far as the capstone was concerned, I took the road of staying local. I'm located down in Southern Ontario in Sarnia. I've been down here for about 20 years. I came down here initially to go to college, was in the green industry and still am in the green industry. And just, as I said, reached a point in my career where, felt trapped, felt like, there was no room up, and just wanted to better myself. So when I started the program, that really was my only intention: get better. keep the learning going. I do love to learn in any way, shape, or form, and this program just really solidified that. And as I'm turning 40 this year, really have no desire to stop learning. It's kind of one of those, well, what's next? So when I did the paper, I stayed local and chose Chemical Valley, which is infamous on its own in the environmental world. And as I was saying to Nancy prior to starting, over my shoulder this way, there's a smokestack that is spewing out all the toxic waste that's brought to this area. So it's close to home. A lot of impacts from financial to obviously ecological, health, environmental. So it really was a challenge to go through the capstone project while maintaining somewhat of an unbiased tone. In fact, I was guided through the process by Dr. Ireland on being biased in my research, which was a learning experience all in itself, trying to be succinct, to be thorough, yet still present a paper that covered my aspects. So I dealt with Ontario Regulation 8922, which is about sulfur dioxide, and really went along the lines of, our Sarnians or the local residents, really going to see much of an impact, increase in quality of life. And, the challenge I found with the paper specifically, and as Erin said, having 6 months to work on this and compile this information and try and bring it down into the word count was likely the biggest challenge. There's a personal feeling of, and sometimes less is more, but really condensing this down into a paper that, covered all aspects of the research paper and the goal. What I found with the process, though, is we were really well guided. I had several Zoom calls with the resource center. Everyone was, super helpful in helping guide us through that path. Frankly, this was the first formal research paper I'd ever done. So certainly some of the formalities and whatnot were difficult for a blue collar guy like me to figure out at times. But certainly we had tons of support going through the process. But as I said, the one thing that I found actually, it was a trick I wish I had known, and relying on that resource center going through the capstone, I wish I had utilized that more from the get-go, back in 2016 and 17. Specifically Zotero. I don't know, Erin, if you use Zotero for your references and whatnot, but when you start getting into the research and hundreds of papers and resources and whatnot, the help is out there. There's tools out there to assist with this, and that was my one big takeaway at the end. But yeah, certainly learning locally and discussing with people and even starting conversations. In fact, I was on I do a Sunday morning bike ride with some friends, and unfortunately their young daughter is going through some health concerns revolved around environmental in this area, 10-year-old girl. And you start conversations about the area we live in and the health impacts, and really the politicization of and the challenge that local governments have, and the feeling of residents, and why everyone's hesitant to input these environmental restrictions, and the fears of job losses. And when you start having these conversations with people and realizing all of our livelihoods in this area are impacted by this, yet we also know the environmental impacts that it's causing. It's there's some humbling conversations that were born out of this paper for me. As I said, I was on a bike ride with a friend, and I think we're sitting down by the river. You look to the left, and there's 50 smokestacks, and you look to the right, and there's another 50, and meanwhile there's 5,000 people in a community right behind, and you really start to question, what are we doing? so the paper itself, and it really was a culmination of the 6 years for me and bringing it all together. The program in general, as I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I really didn't know what I wanted my outcome to be. But I can look back and say, well, I had a very well-rounded education through Royal Roads and through all the electives and other institutions, that it allowed me to think in a different way. It allowed me to maybe not just look on the surface of it. No, we need jobs. This is the way it is. Or no, we can't just shut them down because the negative impact on its citizens. So it really just expanded my horizons. And as an old dog learning new tricks, it was just a fascinating experience for me. So you could go on and on forever about why and how I did this and whatnot. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was 6 years that I'm extremely proud of. I look forward to continuing broadening my horizons that way, but I can't speak enough about the whole process through Royal Roads. It was a great experience for me.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jamie. And so I'll ask you one question, as I did with Erin, and then I'll go a bit more generically. So you mentioned at the start of your words that you kind of at a point in your career where you'd either love it, fix it, or leave it. Mm-hmm. You weren't quite sure what you were necessarily driving to when you started the process, and still aren't sure exactly. But do you feel like you've you've actually sort of made some progress in the direction that you might go in your career at this point?
100%. I don't want to downplay this whatsoever. So I started in the program. I was 16 years into a golf career, not golfing. I was a golf superintendent for about a dozen of those years. At the time, that industry was slowly dying. Supply and demand, and we were on the wrong side. So as I was going through the program, one of the, I can't remember the name of the course, but we had a business plan we had to go through. And this led me down a learning path, which connected me to the local business development agency that provides career counseling and business development counseling and whatnot. Spent, I'm going to say about 100 one-on-one meetings I had with that agency, which led me to a connection in my current position. And I'm no longer in the golf world, and I'm an assistant general manager at a maintenance firm that does service Chemical Valley. So have I been on an upward trajectory since? 100%. I've been in this position for 2 years now, finished my degree while in this position. And it's funny, I spent in total just north of 20 years in golf, and I've never had a position that I love. And it sounds cliche to say that. People say, find a job you love and never work a day in your life. No, I love my job. And certainly I will attribute that back to the decision of bettering myself, of not just sitting back and complaining, which I think we can all fall into. Or I'll speak for myself. I think I fell into that. And it was time, and I'll credit my wife. She's brought me up, marry up, and she has. But it was, what? Let's quit complaining about it. Let's do something. And certainly that decision has led me to where I am today. So it was the day. Unfortunately, I could not attend convocation in November, which I wish I could have. I had dreamed of that day. But the day that the degree came in the mail, like I said, it brought me to tears. It was a monumental day for me.
Chris, I got a question from the chat, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone was asking about, Erin, your design skill, as we can see with the presentation. Were you able to use your past experience into the program? And thank you for the person who asked me the question.
That's a great question. Unfortunately, I can't take credit for the slideshow. I will be honest, I Googled coral reef PowerPoint templates, and this is one of the ones that came up.
You knew it was a good one though, so
Yeah,
you know.
oh yeah, I was like, yep, this is the one, gotta use it. I think that like overall my like previous experience in like design and art kind of influences a lot of the things that I do. I like cannot make an Excel spreadsheet with like somehow making it somewhat aesthetically pleasing, which I think some of my colleagues and my team appreciates. But yeah, this slideshow specifically was courtesy of the internet.
So you both in various ways discussed various aspects of work-life balance and how the BEP program helped with that. Erin, you were talking about how you maybe wouldn't have done full-time work in hindsight. I don't know how long you took in the program. That might have been a factor in that. Jamie, you were mentioning that you took the 6 years, and just for everyone to know, you're allowed up to 7 without any issues. So you took a sort of longer period, maybe. So I was wondering if you could both sort of reflect on how the program enabled you to carry on working, and you both found new positions while you were in the program. I'm not sure about you, Erin. Jamie, you've obviously got a family to manage as well, or be managed by, I don't know. Yeah. So I wonder if maybe both of you would like to reflect on that aspects of the program and how it sort of facilitated sort of your life.
Go ahead, Jamie, if you want to go
Okay,
first.
Jamie, go first. Yeah.
Sure thing. Sure. Yeah, it certainly when I made the decision to come back to school, obviously that was a big determining factor. I had applied to Western University here, which is about an hour away from me, in London. That was, as I was trying to figure out what path to take, certainly the limitations, holding a full-time job, was a challenge to be at in an on-site environment. I was never afraid of the night work. I was never afraid of doing things after work. I mean, it's I was fairly confident from the get-go that I'd be able to manage, and I kind of subscribe to we make time for the things that are important, and there were some sacrifices along the way, no doubt, but knowing that I had the 7 years from the get-go was certainly a bonus. The kids at the time we are a blended family, so I think we had 2 that were 8 and 2 that were 6. So certainly we were kind of in the younger realm at the time. But I never found, for me personally, the workload, it was there. And as I alluded, there were some difficult or challenging times. But to me, I guess that built the pride at the end. It is that badge of honor that, yeah, you know what, I did this. I never regretted, I never had any regrets about any of the courses I took or the workload. There were a couple times where maybe some courses overlap, where things got a little hairy at times. But again, it was I knew going into it that there'd be some weekend time, there'd be some evening time, and certainly I had a very supportive household at home. And I guess I grew up in a house. My mom had emigrated from England when she was 15, didn't finish high school, and when I was a teenager, I watched my mom go back to school, and she finished her high school, and she went to college, and I guess for me, looking at that, saying good for my mom. I mean, she struggled through raising us and bettered herself, and I guess that's how my life started. And I guess I wanted my kids to see that, hey, yeah, life's important and family time's important, and going to every baseball field and every hockey arena is important, but we also want to continue on a path to better ourselves. The learning journey never ends, and I guess that motivated me in behind as well. So 6 years, it was a long time. I mean, there were periods in that. COVID struck, of course, and job situations changed, and it really was 6 years of change, and just kind of ebb and flowed with it. And once you get to that last, 2-3 classes, and you can see the finish line, it was, okay, let's go. And like I said, sometimes there were courses overlapping, sometimes I had gaps of 3-4 months. The flexibility was great. It really did allow me to, if I knew that we had a busy summer, I wouldn't take classes. If I figured I could handle it, well, I did. And there were class options available with the electives. So at the end of the day, and really that was probably guided me to Royal Roads more than anything at the start of it, but was the flexibility.
Yeah, I wish I took advantage of the flexibility of the program a bit more. All my friends and family said I was a little bit nutty, but I did do the program in the 2.5 or like just over 2.5 years while working full time, except during COVID, I was laid off for the first few months, like a lot of people were. But yeah, so like doing the pros usually in like 2 to 3 courses at the same time while working full time. And like, that is what I would not recommend to literally anybody. So just like being able to plan it out, or if you have more time to do it, I would recommend that, like Jamie did. But yeah, work-life balance was tough, as you can imagine. But yeah, I think like it was for the better. It did kind of really turn my whole life around while I was in the program, just able to really make a lot of different transitions and learn a lot through the process, and learn a lot about myself through the process. And yeah, I think came out of it better professionally and better person in my personal life as well. Yeah, I'm not sure if I fully answered the question, but yeah.
I think that does it nicely. So there's a few questions in the chat here, some of which I think probably are more directed at me, but we'll go through them, and I'll throw them back to you, and feel free to contribute if you feel you can. So the first question here is from Kelly, which is how does this program, or Royal Roads in general, connect with the Greater Victoria business community? So I would say the BEP program doesn't specifically connect with the Victoria business community, simply because our students are remote, and so they're not generally in the Victoria region. Some are, of course, but majority probably are not. That saying, we do have a couple of profs who are very much part of the business community in Victoria. We also have, certainly the institution as a whole is very connected to the local business community in Victoria. I mean, our sister program, the on-campus version, the on-campus Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences, they do their capstone course is very much focused on meeting the needs of local organizations, which includes business organizations as well as municipalities and other kind of community groups, for example. And we do have a, if you are local and are wanting to do a practicum or a research paper, there's of course absolutely no reason why that wouldn't be facilitated via a local business entity. But as a program, we don't specifically have strong links. So I think hopefully that answers your question, Kelly. Next question, which is definitely one for you guys, is from Joe. How did your idea of where your education would take you after the course change from the start of the BA to the end? So I think you may have answered a little bit of this already, but maybe if you have any comments to add. Maybe Erin, go first with this one.
Yeah, sure. I think my idea of where I thought it would go changed about 17 times during the course of the program. I really wasn't sure exactly what arena I wanted to be in, and like, quite frankly, don't even still. I think I know I want to be in like the ocean conservation space. But beyond that, I'm not entirely sure, but at the beginning I thought maybe like law or I don't know. It changed so many times, and honestly, I feel like was influenced a lot by the courses I was in. I was like, "Ooh, this course is really exciting. Maybe I could do something like this." And then, kind of near the end, sort of realized, also aligned with like getting a new job, kind of in the field that I wanted, and like kind of learning more about what my skills were outside of the art world, as well as like the different courses we were taking. Sort of realized that like my skills are more aligned in like the project management side of things. So I think like since graduating have like really kind of narrowed in on that, and have decided and like know that that's kind of the direction I want to go. That's still quite broad, but I guess like project management in like in the ocean space is where I've landed on thus far. But like Jamie, I just graduated in August, so who knows? I don't know if anyone really has it all figured out, but yeah, it definitely changed over the course of the program, but largely just because I went into this program to kind of help, I guess, figure out where I wanted to go. So I went into it very open-minded and like very intentionally open-minded, because I wanted to explore all the different avenues and all the different courses and subject matters that we were taking, which is what I really liked about this program as well, is it just covers so many different topics, and you get to learn so much about a lot of different things and kind of figure out what you really like and what kind of aspect of the environmental practice field you want to practice.
Jamie?
Yeah, and again, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted. I think I had in my head that, and I shouldn't say in my head, I had the opportunity locally to teach in a horticulture technician program at our college prior to starting Royal Roads. And actually my dad was a college professor in the millwright field. So in my mind, I think I came into this saying, come and get a degree, and perhaps that's the avenue that, I would pursue post-graduation. What I didn't expect was to go through this program. And as I had mentioned with, being connected with our local business development group, was that I had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in me that I didn't know existed. And it really was a result of the project that we went through in the, environmental business program. And that really triggered something in me that, I went so far as to develop a business plan, and admittedly was nothing to do with environmental. It was sports related, which is my my passion project, I guess. Never did get it off the ground, probably never will. But that time that I spent, learning about myself, really was spurred on from, the RU program. So as I went through, and I continued to work through that program, or this business plan right through graduation, it did lead me to connections and building relationships with people locally, which has led me to this position I'm in today and have been in for 2 years. So I never would have dreamed it kept me in the industry I was in. I'm still in the green industry for all intents and purposes. It just connected me to different connectors that has found me the job that I love. So again, it was all about progress. It was all about personal development, and I guess the outcome is a little surprising from where I thought I'd be. So
okay, thank you. So the next question is from Shannon. I don't know, I can answer this to some extent, but you could chime in on this as well. How were exams written? Did you have to find suitable locations that offer proctoring services to write in person, or was everything online? So, well, for Royal Roads courses, generally speaking, our online courses don't have exams at all, Shannon. I don't know if Erin or Jamie, you took courses at other institutions and came across exams, but by and large, the BP doesn't have exams as a general rule. But
yeah, the only exams, I think I only took 2 in the whole time, and both were proctored. And as far as I know, at the Basca University, offers a lot of the electives that we can take, and they have quite a good selection. But I think for the most part, all of Athabasca's courses have proctored exams. So those are the two I took, were for 2 Athabasca courses I took, but none at Railroads.
Yeah, and same thing. Athabasca, I think Cape Breton U, University of Guelph, and there's one I can't quite remember, but sure, they were all proctored exams. I was able to write them locally at Atlanta College because I was outside of the radius, so no issues. And I think I maybe only wrote 4 or 5 exams total.
Yeah, mine were all proctored online, so I was still able to
Okay.
do it at my house. Yeah.
Nice.
So there you go, Shannon. It's a mixed bag, but it's not a huge component of your program, however you do it. So, and then Amy asks 2 questions. The first is, did you ever feel that the coursework was beyond your capability? Both of you are coming from different backgrounds, so you're challenging new neurons. And then a sort of follow-up to that is also, how did you come to choose the BA in environment practice in the first place? Amy, I'm not sure if you mean the BA as opposed to the BSc, or if you mean the Bachelor of Environmental Practice generally, but maybe if you guys want to reflect on both of those possibilities.
Yeah, I didn't really ever, I mean, the coursework, I think sometimes felt maybe, I wouldn't say like beyond my capability. It was definitely overwhelming sometimes, which is very likely my own fault for trying to take on too much all at once. But I felt like the courses, at least the block A, which I did first. So I kind of got into a groove once I was in the block B courses, but in the block A courses, which are all offered by Royal Roads, I always felt like they were somehow able to be tailored to people who have background in kind of the environmental space, but also like able to be digestible by people who come from different backgrounds. So it was pretty like adaptable in that sense, just like the information that was given. I think I had to work a little bit harder just coming from fine arts and not really having a background in anything, but I never really felt like it was beyond my capability. The professors are also really good, and have lots of opportunities to learn from your peers as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And then also for the BA, I didn't have the appropriate credits to get into a BSc, so BA was the stream that I chose for that reason. But I don't think I wanted to do a BSc anyway. The BA kind of aligned more with my interests. And then, yeah, like I said before, I'm based in Victoria, so I knew of Royal Roads already as a really great university who has really excellent programs in the sustainability and environment school. And so had heard about Royal Roads that way, and then also just because of the structure of Royal Roads being really tailored to people in mid-career, transitioning careers, heard about it that way. And then, yeah, the program just like being online part-time and really flexible was, yeah, really geared to what I sort of needed at the time.
Jamie?
Yeah, the coursework was beyond my capability. No, and again, I mean, there were times where, and like Erin said, likely self-induced. Maybe wear a bit off more than I could chew. 2. I actually think I had a brief stint with 3 on the go at one point. I think I justified that it was Christmas holidays and I'd be off and could figure that out. But I always felt, and I'll go into Royal Road specifically because there was a half dozen institutions that I did electives with. And I guess this feeds into the why did I choose the BA in the first place. Really, Royal Roads was unique from all the institutions I went through with the online education. What surprised me the most was how collaborative it was, how many group projects we had, how many, at the time it was Google Drive. We'd have, Teams calls or Meet calls or, and kind of getting to know people. And this was pre-pandemic, getting to know people and work with people online. And it was surprising. just how much collaboration we had in an online environment at that time. I mean, of course, the last 3 years, it's kind of become the norm to a certain degree, but going to Athabasca, short of one professor who I'd made a connection with who happened to be local and Chemical Valley specific, short of that, any other institution I went to, really you were left on your own. It was, read this, do this, submit. Didn't have that personal experience that I got at Royal Roads. And I suppose as I was researching what to do, where to go, Royal Roads at the time seemed the most accommodating. And 6 years later, that's still my opinion, because I have looked at other programs since. I've contemplated an MBA. I've contemplated a few things, and I really don't know what that path may bring. It will bring something. I just don't know yet. Maybe I'm indecisive. I don't know. But was it ever beyond my capability? No. I guess, and perhaps it was an age thing. When you're mid-30s and now you're footing the bill, and you have some skin in the game, and a house and kids and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you take it a little bit more seriously. I don't know. Maybe that was my story, but certainly, when I decided to do it and you commit to it, I guess I found a way to do it, and despite the hurdles that were there, and no regrets. I mean, it's probably, if not the best, one of the biggest decisions of my life. And again, just super proud that I went through it.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed. There are no more questions posted, so I think probably as we've got 5 minutes or so to go, that might be a good time to sort of conclude our session with a sort of few more slides on things like how to apply and whatnot. But if you do want to post any more questions in the chat, we can probably answer in the chat while Nancy's finishing off, and or you can follow up. I noticed Nancy's posted the link to Enrolment Services that can always answer questions as well. But before we get into those final slides, I just want to thank you, Jamie and Erin. It was great to hear about your stories, and certainly, it's always nice when the sort of the stuff that you put out to people in answer to their questions is backed up by real experience. So thank you very much indeed for that. Nancy, do you want me to run through these, or you want to?
Yes, thank you so much,
Okay.
Jamie and Erin. And yeah, I just have that slide, and then I'll go to the how to apply.
Okay. Yeah, so just to sort of give the sort of the context of what we've been talking about, and we've spoken a little bit about this already, but you can do the Bachelor of Environmental Practice as either a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, and that's largely dependent on what previous experience you have. There are science requirements on admission in order to take the Bachelor of Science. So the program as a whole is fully online. It's 60 credits and is part-time, and as we've been hearing, it's flexible, so you can fit it to your needs. If you do have other third or fourth year credits from elsewhere, then you can transfer those into the BEP as third or fourth year credits. So if you've taken, started a third year at a university or did an advanced diploma in Ontario or something like that, you do have some capacity to transfer relevant credits into the program from those. You can take designated courses as part of the Block B of the program from universities across Canada, and we have a list of pre-approved electives. But if you find other courses that are relevant and meets a need that you have, whether that's online or face-to-face at another institution, you can certainly ask to take those as an elective as well. And then to complete, you either take a 75-hour practicum course, EMBP 450, or a research paper, EMBP 451, to complete your program. And as I think it was Erin who mentioned, the practicum is a 3-credit course, and the research paper is a 6-credit course. So you'd have to take an additional elective option if you took the practicum route. But that's basically how the program is structured, and you can find more information about how that works on the program web pages at royalroads.ca.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, I think that's a great overview, and people can always connect with Enrolment Services or browse the website for more info. And I'll just go quickly about how to apply, because some people were messaging me in the chat here. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we have standard admission, which is kind of the traditional way. You have completed a 60 post-secondary arts or science credits with a minimum of GPA of B from a recognized post-secondary institution. And maybe you have 18 of those credits that are science one if you want to get to the BSc. So that's the traditional way. If you have that, this is why we have so many transfer from colleges as well. So if you have that kind of 60 credit with the GPA, then you're good to go. We'll evaluate your file and you most likely will be admitted through standard admission. But what we do really well at Railroad is the flexible admission. So we can give everyone a chance. Maybe you don't have that GPA, for example, or maybe you didn't complete other post-secondary institution programs. So if you have the experience, so 5 years, we mentioned, or a combination of academic achievement, work experience, or volunteering, and you have the ability, of course, to demonstrate the competency expected of a graduate with a 2-year diploma, because again, you're coming to that program as year 3 and 4. So we expect you to have that experience and that knowledge already. And if you have the credits, so you have your 60 credits, but you don't have the GPA of B, then we ask for 3 years of work or relevant volunteer experience. And you might ask yourself, how do you showcase that? So that will be here under what we call additional supporting documents. When you apply at Railroad, you go on the website, you click Apply Now, and you will submit your online application with a fee of $131.39. And you don't have to select flexible or standard admission. The team will review your file and yet let you know if you need to submit additional documents. So everybody will have to submit their official transcripts from other post-secondary institutions. But then if the team decides that you need to submit a little bit more, that will be the detailed resume, the personal statement, and 2 letters of reference. And this is during the personal statement, I would say, that you can really showcase who you are. So what you have done in the past that can be different from academic traditional paths, what you're doing now for work, where you want to go. And as well, if something went wrong, maybe with one of the other colleges or universities that you attended, you can explain it in the personal statement. And everything is assessed by human here at Railroad, so they can really understand, again, who you are and where you want to go. And anything to add on that slide, Chris?
No, I think that just about covers it.
Perfect. And there's more information again on the website or really what to provide in the resume, the statement, and the letters of reference. And I like to say that this program is super cool because we have kind of a rolling admission. We have 3 intakes a year. So the next one being in September, and you can apply by June 5th. Then we have January 8, 2024 and May 6, 2024. And you really don't have to wait those dates. So if today you're watching the webinar, you're watching the recording maybe, and you want to get in the program, you can apply right now online and you will maybe get the September intake, or you can apply now and you can decide to start in January, but you really don't have to wait those deadlines. You can apply every day online. And services available to you. Just to finish, I want to be respectful of your time here. And as you are a prospect student, you're not yet a student with us, you can still access the financial resources. So the Department of Financial Aid and Awards at Railroad. And I really encourage you to have a look at the website, connect with their team, because they always know internal, external loans you can get, some grants you can get depending the province maybe you're joining from, and always connect with Learn find out more at railroads.ca to learn more about all the programs. Maybe you're debating between the BA, the BSc, or something else. So really the Enrollment Services will be able to go and have an overview of every program. They can as well connect you with a graduate, as we learned from Jamie and Erin. So you can talk with someone that is in the program or completed the program. And I think it's a beautiful way for you to get a better understanding of railroads. And my last slide is just thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Great question in the chat and great discussion with the graduate. Any final word, Chris?
No, other to thank you, Nancy. Thank everyone for coming and taking part in the conversation.
Yeah, we hope to continue the discussion with you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.